have someone that's a narcissist who's overly interested in his or her own agenda at the expense of others. That person that is most probably is possibly a con person, right? It doesn't matter where you meet that person. It doesn't matter immaterial because all con artists think the same way, right? Doesn't mean that it surely is, but that's an indication that the person is a swindler. He's a con artist. It doesn't matter whether he's a pastor, a reverend, most holy apostle. If you see that trait in that person's probably a swindler, right? So it's up to you then to be careful to protect yourself, right? So Jesus says, by their fruits will know them, not by their title. Because someone is the most senior apostle doesn't mean that he's not a swindler. If I see in that person a psychopath, a narcissist, it's probably a swindler, right? Doesn't matter the title. Doesn't matter how many years he's built his church or how big his church is, right? So the third part in what we call the dark triad is the Machiavellianism. It's taken from the name of a person that wrote the book, The Prince, which embodies this attribute. His name is Niccolo Machiavelli, right? Who was born in Florentine, Italy. He wrote a book and he expounds a philosophy, a way of thinking, and a way of doing things, which is called the Machiavellism or Machiavellianism, yes. And this is all embodied in his book, not necessarily what he lived, but is a line of thought. It's a where it says that for leaders, the way to lead is by being a terror to the people following. So Machiavellism is not a leadership. It's not the leadership philosophy. It's more of a tyrant boss philosophy. And a lot of people are bought into it, but in the church, in the workplace, they are deceived to think that it's the right way, but it's the way to hell. That's why it's part of a dark triad, right? It's a dark philosophy. To think that you have to be a tyrant to be a boss, to be a tyrant to get people to follow you. That is not a leader. Because a leader is one who sells the vision and gets the buying of the followers to follow, not because they are scared of a punishment, but because they believe in the reward of following. They believe that there's something to gain in following. So a leader gives people something to desire for, whereas a tyrant, it gives people something to run away from. So if you're in a place where someone is always telling you about the punishment to run away from, oh, if you don't come to church, oh, the angel will come, will take register. Oh, if you don't give that offering, this might happen to you. Or if you don't do this, that will happen to you. That person is probably a con, is a swindler, right? Anybody that's making you give out of fear or do things out of fear, it's most probably a swindler, right? It's a con artist. It's a con man, a con woman, right? A leader doesn't lead by fear. He leads by love. He doesn't lead by fear. He leads by love. It gives you something to drift towards, not something to run away from, right? A leader gives you something to drift towards, not something to run away from. So if you find someone with this Machiavellian tendency, that most probably that person is a con, right? And you have those three put together, most probably that person is a con, you know. So con actors are people who have a predisposition in these three aspects, right? A predisposition to being a psychopath, a predisposition to being a narcissist, a predisposition to be a Machiavelli, but that does not mean that they would con you, right? They might have that predisposition, but they also need an opportunity to make for them to con, right? It takes being in a place where the opportunity poses itself to do it. So even though they have this three and opportunity, that doesn't mean that they will still con, because they have what Viktor Frankl says is the last of the human liberties, the ability to choose, right? You can have a predisposition to be a psychopath. You can have a predisposition to be a narcissist. You can have a predisposition to be a Machiavel. Uh, you can have the opportunity to con people, but you still have a choice to make, right? And that's what God's given to every one of us. It's giving us what we call the free agency, and that's the basis of judgment. You can't say because this happened to me. We might not be able to determine the cards life plays us. We can determine how we respond to it. We can determine how we play our own cards, right? Life might deal us cards, but we can determine how we play it, right? So even though you have a tendency to be a psychopath, you have a tendency to be a narcissist, you have a tendency to be a Machiavel, you know, you have the opportunity to swindle people because you're in a position of power. It's still not enough reason for you to con people, because you still have you're still able to make a decision. You can decide to use all of these attributes to bless people rather than to con them. You can use this attribute in a way that increases people rather than decrease them. So even though you have all of those four together, you still have one last thing you could do. You could decide not to con people, or you could decide to, right? But for we looking on the inside, when we see all of this, it tells us to have our antennas up, that something might be amiss. Someone might be trying to steal from us. Someone might be trying to make us less, not more. Might be a sign to run away from. Like Jesus would say, by their fruits you will know them, right? And it tells you your response, right? And you don't have them to be scared by all the fiery things they say. You don't get entrapped by their witchcraft, right? You can make the right decision for yourself, right? So that what did I just do? So Connor's actors display a dark triad influence bend, right? They have a bending towards this triad, this dark triad, uh, which is being a psychopath, being a narcissist, and being a Machiavel, right? They can rationalize away just about any behavior as necessary, right? They can do that, rationalize anything away because of a nonchalancy coming from being a psychopath, but they could have the opportunity to con people, but they can choose to or choose not to. In that wise, they have become responsible. They can't blame anything in their past or their present, because everyone has a choice.